we are ready for our huge meal prep. There are 7 recipes plus some other additional things that we're doing that aren't recipes, like hard-boiled eggs and portioning out nuts and cutting veggies. Sorry, and I had to change my setup a little bit this week, and so I'm trying to see if I can make it go down a little bit so you can see more of what I'm doing. Hold on just a second, sorry. I thought I had it all set. Can you see? My husband got me this super fancy little table that I can use, but I can't use it. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so we have orange chicken, then we're gonna prep our enchiladas. We're gonna cook the enchilada bake. We're gonna cook the enchiladas and prep the taco meat. We're gonna cook the taco meat, then we're gonna make the tuna casserole on the stove. Then I'm gonna cook some sweet potatoes and cut veggies. We're gonna cook oatmeal for breakfast. We are going to cook hard-boiled eggs for snacks. We are gonna marinate some chipotle chicken. And then at the end, we're gonna have peanut butter cups, but we're gonna make peanut butter cups. And then I think we should all have a shot of tequila because this is crazy long, but it's planned. And if it works and helps you be a little bit less stressed during the week, then it's totally worth it. And so I've slowly seen people drop off, which is exactly what I expected, because not very many people need the entire breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, everything for the week. And so the whole purpose of this, remember, was that you started with just snacks, because that's where we all stress out the most and grab for a bag of chips. And then you go as far as what made sense for you and your family. So if you've made it this far, and if you are still prepping and it's still working for you, God bless you, because this is crazy. But hopefully I have showed you how to plan it and how to figure it out, and then how to cook everything differently, cook everything in order so that it made the most sense, rather than, I know I had talked to a couple people last week that, not in this group, in a different group, that, I prepped sweet potatoes and I prepped ground turkey and then I prepped hard-boiled eggs. And somebody said, well, what are you gonna do with them? And she's like, I don't know, but I prepped them. And so the whole thing is that you have to do what works for you, the recipes that work for you, and you have to be able to cook them in order so that you're not, prepping 3 separate things and then waiting kind of for those. I don't know, I feel like if you stick taco meat in a skillet or in the Instant Pot, and then you walk away and start doing something else, you're more likely to stay away and not finish your prepping. And so, though it's stressful to do this 3-4 hours, at once, it's also something that I think that it's super important that you're able to just get it done and over with. Everything's prepped in the freezer. I still have a couple things in the freezer from last week that we didn't eat, and then we're gonna probably do the same thing this week, because this is not my meal prep. This is not my level meal prep. We are solid at a week 2. At our level 2 with it, we did snacks and lunches. That is our meal prep, because I enjoy making breakfast in the mornings, and then I enjoy making dinner at night. And so it'll be really nice to have the chicken marinated and ready to go, so that I can just pull it out and defrost it, and then we'll probably just grill it. So that'll be super helpful. But a lot of other stuff is just gonna go in the freezer for us, and then we'll pull it out for lunches in a couple weeks. But use them as you see fit. Don't feel like you have to, we said that orange chicken was for dinner. If you want it for lunch, then grab it for lunch. There's no harm in that. And if you feel like, hey, I'm not gonna eat that oatmeal, or it's not gonna be enough for me, then switch up the recipe. That's okay. This is just what we're doing. So the whole purpose of this was that you figured out how much to prep for you and your family, where it wouldn't be too much and get wasted. And if you pick the easy to freeze meals, then it doesn't get wasted. And it's not gonna be too little, where you're either stressing yourself out and trying to re-prep on Tuesday or Wednesday night, or stressing yourself out and grabbing crackers and chips or fast food on the way home. So let's start. We're gonna start with orange chicken in the Instant Pot. And so we pre-measured a bunch of stuff this week. And then my husband kept telling me, you're not supposed to do this, you're supposed to cook with them. And I said, I know, but it's so stressful to measure and then have to wash everything. And so I pre-measured the spices. and the liquid stuff is not measured. So we're gonna have to do that together. So we need to saute broth, aminos. Actually, hold on a second. There's stovetop directions to this. I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, can they cook this on the stovetop? Vinegar, honey, ginger. So I'm just gonna pull everything for this meal. I separated it all out. So we have our chicken, and then all of this stuff. So we're gonna saute them first. Quarter cup chicken broth. Quarter cup, okay. Hold on just a second. No, sorry, my quarter cup's here. I'm actually gonna spray this first. And so 4 weeks ago, I told you guys that I was going to clean out my spice cabinet and organize it, and it has not been done yet. It was a bowl though. So I don't turn it on saute until I'm ready, whereas usually like on the stove, I feel like I would preheat it. But what happens is if it takes me a long time to get something in there, then whatever's in there is like burning. Hi guys, hi Sabrina. Hi, Brandy. 1/3 cup liquid aminos or soy sauce. I use, I think I told you guys last week, tamari, because it tastes so much better than soy sauce or liquid aminos, though I know that they're so much healthier. They're just not, it's not the same. So I think I told you guys, like if I feel like I have to add extra to a meal, then I'll switch to the coconut aminos, because it's not as much salt. But tamari is our favorite. And then for rice vinegar, I bought rice vinegar a couple weeks ago and accidentally got the one that was, it's sweetened. I don't know if it's called sweetened or not. Hold on, let me grab my garbage bowl. Thank you. My mom came over because she saw me struggling last week with my constant washing, and so we are working together, and she's washing and rinsing my measuring spoons. So rice vinegar. So I pulled out, I have white wine vinegar and seasoned rice vinegar, that's what it's called. But it has high fructose corn syrup in it and brown sugar that I'm not super thrilled about. So I figured I would just use both of them together because it wouldn't be as sweet as using the seasoned rice vinegar. But I feel bad just not using it at all. So I'm just going to use half and half. So a 1/4 cup of the rice vinegar because it's seasoned, and then a 1/4 cup of the, all I had was white wine vinegar. I don't even know what I had it for, but I obviously have used a lot because it's almost gone. So half cup, thank you. I'm going to turn it on saute. Honey, ginger, half cup honey. So there's enough in there now that I feel like I can turn it on. So half cup honey. And then tablespoon ginger, and I think I have everything else already done. So this is the ginger that I use. I think I talked to you guys about it last week. That because it goes bad, and I said like we live a ways from a store, and when you get ginger root, it goes bad so fast, and so it's really nice to just have and stick it in the fridge. Orange zest. So I washed the orange already. Put that in. And here's the garlic, red peppers, and then we need the orange zest and the orange juice. I don't need that one. All right, so we need orange zest from one whole orange. That is a lot of zest. And then orange juice from the whole orange. And I always slice my fingernail when I do this. So we're talking like super serious focus right here. My goal this week too is to not spill anything on camera, since I seem to do that well. I think it was onion powder the second week, and then it was cocoa powder last week, all over me, and all over my shoes. Okay, this is much easier to zest than like a lime, because it's so much bigger. And truly, if you don't have this, you can just use orange juice. I think it totally tastes better with real orange zest and real orange juice, but you use what you have, and we've done that many times when we're making stuff because we live so far away. All right, and then I tried to KonMari some of my kitchen stuff, and did it with my lemon squeezers and lime squeezers because I had way too many, except I had a really good orange one, and it was really big, and it fit the whole orange, but I never used it, so I got rid of it, and so I had to dice up my orange. This is a blood orange. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's red. So if mine looks a little darker than yours when it's done and it comes out, that's why. That's a huge thing of pulp just went in. But we're gonna leave it in there. So it just started to boil. I'm going to stir it a little bit, and then add my chicken. That smells super good. So I just dice these in like 1-inch-ish squares. I just use that in a garbage bowl, like shove all my stuff in. Okay. All right. Stir until the chicken has been coated. Yeah, and so if the recipe calls for partially frozen, just because it's easier to cut, but mine was partially frozen, but it was in the fridge. It's from the grocery store, so. I'm gonna lock the lid in place. And I'm gonna cook it for 5 minutes. Since mine was between the time that it sat in the fridge and just now, I think it's not frozen at all anymore. And so I'm just gonna stick it in there for 5 minutes. All right, and then I'm gonna put some of this stuff away quick so that I have a little bit more counter room. My kitchen has never seemed so small as when I had to make 7 recipes at once. So the only thing that we're going to have to do with that is thicken the sauce a little bit with some cornstarch. It says arrowroot powder. You can also use cornstarch. And then we are going to prep the enchilada bake now, because as soon as this is out, we're going to pull it out, put it in a meal prep container to cool, and then rinse the Instant Pot liner and start the chicken enchiladas. I made brown rice before, it just came out a couple minutes ago. And so I'm just gonna let that, I just popped it up at me, did you see it? I'm gonna let that sit for a little while, and then I'll put that in the bottom of the meal prep container, or maybe on the side, we'll see. So, enchiladas. So, you know, I thought about it today when we were measuring everything out. And so I have my iPad here, and I know that a lot of people like to print recipes, which is fine. I would rather be able to see not just the printed recipe, but all of the instructions and tips in the post itself. And so I always just have my iPad open, and I will open every single tab is a different recipe that I'm doing. So I can quickly switch back and forth. Because when you're trying to finish up the orange chicken, but you're getting ready to put the enchilada in, you want to be able to get to both of those recipes quickly. And what I hate is having, even when I would print them, well, then I have 7 different papers, and they're either lined out on the counter or they're in a stack, and I'm touching them, and they're getting all nasty, and they're sticking together. And so the best thing that I found is to use the iPad and just open up a tab for every single recipe that we're doing. And then I took at the very end of our Start Here document, I listed what order we were going to do things in. And so I wrote that down so that it would keep me on task, because this is a lot different than prepping like a couple snacks or snack and lunch. This is like trying to keep track of multiple recipes at a time. And if you have kids running around, it's going to be stressful, I think. And if you have a husband walking in and out, or if you're just being interrupted by the phone or whatever, it really helps to have it all written down, just a quick list of, you know, what your goal is today and what you're making in what order. But the iPad totally helps to be able to just quick switch between recipes. All right, so enchilada bake. I'm just gonna put it all in a, yeah, oh, I have the bowl here. So, just a second. So a pound of chicken, I'm gonna use frozen chicken. 4 green onions, I have that. A tablespoon of cilantro. Do you know that I forgot cilantro? Like didn't even add it to my grocery list, forgot. But it's not a huge deal. You can saute them, but what I'll just do is, we'll probably roll these up into actual enchiladas during the week. And I'll just put cilantro in it before I roll up the enchiladas. So anything like that, any like non-essential ingredient that you forgot can just be added later. It's not a big deal, and it's not gonna completely mess up that recipe by not putting that one thing in. And so don't leave what you're doing in the middle of a meal prep session to go run to the store and grab that one ingredient that you totally don't need right now. So my husband kept saying, can I go run and get it for you? I'm like, no, I'm good, like we're good, it's okay. And then I have frozen green chilies, because we get a huge container of them at Costco, and I just put them all in the, it's like, I don't know, that big. There's no way that we can have it all at the same time. And so I always just portion it out a little bit when I first open it so that it doesn't go bad in the fridge. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna slice the green onions, and then I have some salsa to grab out of the fridge. You know, I didn't realize that there's like a big argument over what side of the green onion you're supposed to cut. And so I always cut the green. My mother-in-law would always cut off the green and only cut the white part. So now I just do both because I figured it's better to have variety. But I had no idea, and so I will totally ask people now, which part of the green onion do you use? So we make the enchilada bake. You could make a casserole out of it. You could line a casserole dish with some tortillas and kind of do like a lasagna. You know, put tortillas and then cheese and then enchilada meat and then keep rotating it. You could do that. You could put this over salads. I think we're just going to stick it in enchiladas. I don't know, I might try that casserole. Do that with like corn tortillas. That would be good. But it's super versatile and you're able to get like a ton of meals out of it, and you can very easily freeze it and pull it out later to use. And so it's one of my favorite meal prep recipes for that reason. Alright, green chilies. It says 1 can. I know this is a little bit over a can, but I'm not gonna defrost some of it and then put it back, so. And remember, when you're cooking, it's super easy to just, thank you, to just alter the recipe a little bit. When you're baking, you can't do that. But when you're cooking, it's super easy to put a little bit more of something in. We made baked beans today on the smoker, and there were a couple things, and my husband was all stressed because we didn't have them. I'm like, no, it's okay. You can just use this, or use less of this, or more of that. All right, so green salsa. I got it at the fresh section of the grocery store, but they also have jarred, and Herdez is a good brand. This one is just tomatillos, which is like a green tomato. It's not a green tomato, but it's like a green tomato. Roasted jalapenos and salt and water. We like there's different brands in different areas of the country, and this is Del Real, and we like that brand. They just don't use a bunch of junk, and they have a lot of stuff in the refrigerated section by the deli. So cheese, I'm skipping the cheese, and then the rest of the stuff is actually for the toppings. So we are just gonna do this and then cook. This is on 4 minutes now, so it's just got a couple minutes to go. And I'm gonna grab the chicken. It says 1 pound. Our Costco just got frozen organic chicken breasts. I was kind of excited about it, so I had to try them. So I'm going to, okay, so, and this totally happened last week too. And I think I told you guys that I give my recipes to this amazing person who videotapes them and photographs them for me, and also puts down portions, because I am a dash of this and a little bit of that, and I'll just mix it all together. And you know, she's got a culinary degree, and so she says, well, if you saute this and this, it actually brings the flavor out more. And so her directions are a little bit different than mine, and so when I make this, I dump it all in the Instant Pot. She says to saute the green onions and cilantro, which is awesome, and it makes the whole house smell delicious. But if you're a cook like I am and you don't really read ahead to the recipe and you just look at the ingredients and then you dump it all in, that is fine too. It took Some recipes it does not work out well for, but most of them it does. So that's my little disclaimer, is that I know which ones it works out for because I've been making it forever. So I'm actually just gonna put these in here. We're gonna dump it all into the Instant Pot. I'm trying to think of how many. I'm gonna do 3. Okay, so we have 2 minutes left for that. And then we'll put the enchilada bacon. And then we're gonna prep the taco meat. Salsa, chicken, cheese. And I am going to, oh yeah, we're not using the rest of this for a while, so I'm gonna keep it in the freezer. And then taco meat. So the taco meat is so easy. And so when I wrote out my ingredient list or my grocery list, I doubled the taco meat because I just make 2 batches and I have it in the freezer and it stays so well. And we use it for everything. We'll make, put it on top of salads. We'll make like bowls that have cauliflower on the bottom and we'll just dump the taco meat on top. We'll make tacos. And it's really nice to have on a weeknight when you have nothing else in the house and you just want to defrost that. And so this is super easy to double. It calls for frozen taco meat, and I don't, I usually do. I'm not, this time I'm using fresh because we just grabbed it from Costco. The dog is staring again. All right, so we're gonna let that finish, and then we'll dump this in, and then we'll start the taco meat. Mine is not thawed, which is fine. It just cooks for a little bit less time. I have no patience when it comes to these. I just want it to drop. All right. So this is done. We're just gonna thicken it a little bit. So we're gonna pull out some of the sauce and then thicken it with cornstarch, or you can use arrowroot powder. And then I do this too, like if, sorry, I don't thicken it, but I will saute. If I make something that ends up being too watery, like chili in the Instant Pot sometimes is super watery because you have to add that extra liquid. And so if you pull the top off your Instant Pot and hit saute, some of that liquid will burn up a little bit. And so that's what I'm gonna do with this, because we don't need a ton of liquid. So we're gonna let some of it burn off, and then we are going to add the thickener to it and hope that it thickens. It's not necessary at all. You can totally eat it right out of the pot. It just adds for like a nicer, like a glaze or a sauce. Just one other thing that I was gonna say about it. I can't remember what it was. The pieces might be a little bit big that I cut, but that's fine. You'll just need to eat it with a knife and a fork. Another thing that we've done with this is we've used chicken thighs, because I like the way that they cook in the Instant Pot so much better than chicken breasts. And they just shred. Like as soon as they're done cooking, you can take the top off, and like you can't even pick them up. They're just shredded. And so if you don't mind eating shredded chicken for orange chicken, then that's a really good idea. Otherwise the chicken thighs will fall apart, but they're so good. Alright, that's starting to bubble a little bit. So this isn't like a super quick, you know, it's gonna take 2 minutes to thicken. It takes quite a few, I mean, like at least five, I think. So we'll give it a few minutes and see how it does. And then if we need to pull out more of the juice and then mix it again with cornstarch, then we can do that again. But again, it's not necessary to do it. So you could just pull out the orange chicken, and you can either keep some of the sauce aside, or you can just put it right on top of your rice with a vegetable, and very easy, like it's marinated, it's in there, the taste is in there, you don't need the sauce. Or you could even take the chicken out if you wanted to, and then just thicken the sauce down, and then you can pour it over. Give that a minute to sit. And then get some of this ready in case we need it again. Looks the same, so we'll try it again. I've done this a couple times with different recipes. I've never gotten to the point where I've said, oh crap, I put too much in and it's too thick. That's never happened. So it's definitely getting thicker now. And the chicken is nice and easy to cut, so you wouldn't even need a knife and fork for this. You probably just need a fork. Alright, I'm just going to give it a couple minutes, and then I'm going to pull it out and put it into a bowl so that it can cool off for a couple minutes before I stick it in the, I don't like sticking the hot stuff in the meal prep containers, even if it says that they're safe for it. So that was probably, it was several teaspoons, maybe like 2 or 3 tablespoons of cornstarch that I used to thicken, total between the 2 times that I did it. vegetables to have these with, so I would probably just throw like a bag of the steamable broccoli in the microwave and then serve it with this. Or you could do carrots, you could do asparagus would be really good with it. Mushrooms would totally be good with it. And this is definitely not the Panda Express fried orange chicken, but it's good, it's sweet, definitely super sweet compared to stuff that we normally eat because of the honey, but it's really good. All right, I'm gonna turn it off, let it sit for a minute, and then I'm gonna dump it. I'm gonna go grab my oven mitts. Super hot. All right. So like I said, I did the brown rice earlier, and then orange chicken. And so you can see it's not super thick, but it's thick enough that it's gonna stay on the orange chicken. And I feel like as it cools, it'll even thicken some more. And I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute. Enchiladas are next. This is when it comes in handy to have 2 Instant Pots. I'm going to stick the brown rice into here, and then when this cools a little bit, I think I'm just going to put the orange chicken right on top of it. And then any extra sauce, I'll just save in a little container. This worked really well for us last week when I did the teriyaki meatballs, because I was able to defrost them and cook them like the whole meal at the same time. And so that was nice to be able to do that and then portion it all out. One thing that I thought about doing too, though, was cutting the meatballs in half, because it took them a while to defrost. Just stick these in. The Instant Pot. But it's going to be hot, so be careful. Do you want these? No. So the enchiladas, I have frozen chicken, and so in the pressure cooker, there's no difference in time that it takes to cook normally. Except it just takes longer to come to pressure. And so the diced chicken only took 5 minutes because it was cut up into small pieces, but full chicken breasts usually take like 12 to 15. And so this says 15. I feel like that might even be a little bit high for mine. But I think I talked about this before, we always feel like different Instant Pots cook differently. Hi, Sharon. And so mine, I think 12, thank you very much. Mine is good for 12 minutes with chicken breast. So I'm going to spray it. And literally just dump it. So when it comes to the liquid in this, I'm a little nervous because my green chilies are frozen, and if they don't defrost fast, then I could get a burn warning. but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay. Okay. Thank you. All right, let's close this up. I'm gonna do 12 minutes. And that is super easy, so easy to make in the slow cooker. Like you can dump it all in the slow cooker in the morning and just turn it on and then leave for the day. It's also really easy to just do on the oven or on the stovetop. I used to, before I had my Instant Pot, I would just boil chicken all the time, and it sounds so nasty, but you're putting it in a recipe, so it's not. But it's so easy to cook that way because you can just leave it, you can walk away from it. So this is for the taco meat. We're gonna leave that, and so we're a little ahead of schedule. The taco meat is pretty much prepped. Actually, I'm gonna dump everything in. Thank you. I'm just gonna dump everything in the bowl. And so, okay, the taco meat. So I told you that I do two recipes. I double it, and it's so easy to use for everything. The other thing that I do, and I linked to you guys so that you guys could see this too. My other girlfriend has a recipe for taco meat with hidden cauliflower, and I have been making this for over a year, and nobody has a clue. Every once in a while, my son will say, "Did you put something else in here?" And I'll usually just blame it on an onion. But I will make the taco meat, and it seasons itself. If it's frozen, when you take off the lid, or when, when you take off the lid, because it's just an Instant Pot recipe. So you can make it on the stovetop, but with the frozen one, if you use the Instant Pot, you'll pull off the lid and it'll still be like in a brick. And you'll have to mash it a little bit and then just saute it to get it to brown up a little bit. It takes like 2 minutes. But even if you make this on the stovetop, it's super easy, and then you just add all the frozen cauliflower at the end. And so I buy mine from Costco, and it's already riced. And so I'll let it sit out for a couple minutes so that it doesn't have a ton of water that releases into the meat. But when I'm done making it, I just stick the cauliflower in and I stir it up, and you have so many seasonings in the taco meat that nobody notices or cares, but you're getting some extra cauliflower. So you can do it or not. If you don't do it, it doesn't change your recipe at all. It's just a quick addition at the end. And then this taco seasoning that I linked for you guys to make, I made I made it a couple times, and it says here like half teaspoon of smoked paprika. It says don't skip it. And I'm like, well, I don't have it. I'm not going to the store for smoked paprika. But then I bought smoked paprika and used it, and everybody was like, what did you do different with the taco meat? It's so good. There's something different in here. And I am now a huge fan of smoked paprika because it has a completely different flavor than regular paprika, and it just adds something when you cook those dishes. And so I've used it for the taco meat. We just used it this morning in baked beans. I made homemade barbecue sauce a couple weeks ago, and we added it to that. And so anytime, the only thing I can't really imagine liking it on would be probably hard-boiled eggs when you finish, or deviled eggs when you finish them off. But I can't imagine anything like a recipe that would call for paprika that you couldn't just swap it out. But if you think about it, add it to your grocery list if you didn't this week, because it's totally worth it. It smells really good. So I had my husband measure out all of these seasonings beforehand. So I'm just gonna dump them in here. And so this was chili powder, ground cumin, coriander, onion powder, garlic powder, dried oregano, smoked paprika, and then a little bit of salt. I actually skip the salt a lot of the time when I make it. I can see that he put it in here, which is fine, but I don't feel like it needs it. And then 2 cups, because I'm doubling it, 2 cups of tomato sauce. Oh, actually, sorry, a cup. So it's a half cup. So 1 can is a pretty perfect cup. If I do a half, I will just freeze the other half and stick it in a Ziploc bag and label it. And then chicken broth, I'm gonna stick that in. So it says a 1/4 cup, and I'm doubling the recipe and I'm using an 8-quart Instant Pot, so I'm gonna add a little bit more than a 1/4 cup. There's a chance that it's gonna come out a little bit watery, and like I said before, I'll just put it on saute and let that burn off if that happens. So I'll do like 3/4 of a cup instead of a 1/4. No, I'm sorry. No, like a 1/3 of a cup instead of a 1/4. All right, so I am going to, I just have the veggies here that I cut. So maybe I'll just start cutting some veggies while we wait. Yeah, so I'll do that while this is, because this isn't even preheated yet. So again, I skinned the carrots and cleaned them and cleaned the celery before. And then I'm just gonna stick them in these containers. Costco had a whole different set of these that looked so much prettier. They looked like the nice meal prep containers that I have, but they had something in them that made them hold the veggies up from the bottom, like this does, so that they'll last longer. But I didn't get them because I couldn't justify it because I already had these ones. But I'm dying to try them out and see if they work. Because these work. I had, we had veggies in here, I want to say for like almost kind of gross, almost 3 weeks last summer. And it was perfect though because it kept them. Like we couldn't believe how long it lasted. And then it got to the point that I would make, or I would cut other veggies and we wouldn't eat these ones because I wanted to see how long they would last for. And they just started to get a little bit wilty after that, but it was crazy. They lasted a decent amount of time, much longer than they would have lasted just sitting in the fridge. And so we do carrots and celery every week because it's super easy. And then it also doubles because if I don't get around to making a veggie for dinner, I'll just pull them out and we'll snack on them with dinner. And I don't feel so bad because at least people are getting some kind of a veggie. But I also do cucumbers, but those I don't skin them. I just cut them up in like portions and stick them in Ziploc bags so that we can have those. And we'll just skin them before we eat them. And I ate the last of my buffalo chicken dip this week. I was so sad because I'm going to have to make some more of that tomorrow. husband asked, I don't know if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago I was portioning out the nuts, and I think one had like a little bit more than a quarter cup, one had a little bit less, and I just said the heck with it because I was doing it on camera, and I just kind of let it go and put them in the bags. And he asked me, he totally called me on it. He was like, are these all like portioned? I said, they are. And I said, just grab one and take it to work. And he was like, well, it looks like there's a lot more in this one than the other. I'm like, well, I don't know if it'd be a lot more. And he's like, no, and he like held them up together, and it was a decent amount. So maybe triple check your portions as you're putting them in. I'm like, well, you can have the big, like if you feel like having the bigger one, you can have the bigger one. And so the next day I was laughing. So I was like, well, where's the smaller one? I want the smaller one because I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, oh, I ate that one too with the bigger one. So my portion packs didn't really work for him that week. Thinking that I might just make the taco meat on the stove, because this still is not even up to pressure yet. So a little change of plans, I think. So we're not just sitting here waiting for this to finish. Because if it's possible to be done earlier, we are all about being done earlier. All right. So veggies are cut. I'm gonna keep that bowl.
Okay. That's like a perfect garbage bowl.
All right, and I am, especially since it's already defrosted, there's no reason to use the Instant Pot. It was just for something easy. So the chicken broth was for that though. So we're just gonna know that it's gonna be a little bit more liquidy than it would normally be, because I added extra chicken broth in there. But now that we're gonna put it on the stovetop, we're just gonna let it saute off, and it'll dry up, and it's not a big deal at all. It's actually all about the taco seasoning in that recipe. I'm gonna let that heat up for a minute, and then I'm going to put the chicken away in the container. So I'm just gonna strain it all so that the rice doesn't get all soggy and nasty. And then I'll stick the rest of the sauce in a container, and I'll just stick it in the fridge so that we can heat it up and add it on top if we want to. And you could probably even, gosh, I don't know, it depends on the vegetable that you do, but if you were doing like a frozen, like broccoli, like big broccoli florets, you could probably just open the bag and stick it right here, and then microwave it all together. But if you were doing like a smaller vegetable, like peas or carrots, I wouldn't do that. So I don't know that I would use this sauce with anything other than the orange chicken, just because you cooked it with the chicken, and I'm a little weird about that. But I guess you could, but I would just stick to using it with this. So orange chicken's done.
I don't need that again, okay.
And then I'm gonna spray the pan and do the turkey meat, or the taco meat. And they say that they have these super easy to open packages, but it always takes me forever because my hands are always wet. All right, so again, you could use this for tacos, taco salad. You could make little burritos out of it. You could totally make like beef enchiladas out of it. Any Mexican dish that needs taco meat. You could put it on cauliflower. And then this I'll stick in a big meal prep container just until I can portion it out more. But when it cools, I'll put it in smaller freezer bags. Hi, Deborah. All right, this just started cooking. And I'm gonna pour this. I don't need this. I'm going to, I need to check my phone battery quick. Sorry. So this is the longest one that we've done, and my battery's been okay. I've always had it plugged in, but I went to plug it in to where the camera is this week, and I don't have a cord long enough. So I have a charger charging so that I can plug it in a little while. But it's been an hour, it's good, so. So taco meat, sweet potatoes, I'm gonna toss those in the Instant Pot too because they're so easy in there. And then a lot of the, like the vegetables, the produce that we got, that I had put on that grocery list, so the lettuce, the tomatoes, they were all for the enchiladas, for whatever you wanted to do with that, and then for the tacos. And then I like to wait until that night to cut my veggies. I just feel like they taste better if they're fresher. But if that's something that you want to do, is cut those all now and have them for this week, then that, if that works better for you, then definitely do it. And then we're gonna do the tuna casserole on the stove too. And I did not make homemade cream of mushroom soup this time, so it is canned. And we have started to get the organic one from, it's just a Safeway brand one. And I really thought that there would be like a huge difference in taste, like it would taste like the Campbell's cream of mushroom one. I almost feel like that's super sweet and thick, and this one isn't. So when you're too lazy to make the homemade cream of mushroom, that is a good stand-in. Alright, I figured at least this could start heating up because it's a huge pot and it takes forever to boil. Alright, 6 minutes left on the enchiladas. And then I'm just going to open these for when that starts to boil and is finished boiling. And then remember, if you're like I am and you don't have a ton of meal prep containers, it's okay to stick these all in bigger ones and then portion them out later, or put them in like Ziploc freezer bags. Yes, for sure. So Leslie asked if I'll be leaving the videos up for a while, and yeah, this group is gonna stay. That'll stay around for a while so that everybody has a chance to watch them, and then even after that, the group will be gone. But I'm actually gonna edit the videos a little bit and then make them available to the blog readers, and so you'll still be able to get them down the road. And so if you just need to even write down my email address, and if it's not, if it's a while before you're feeling better, then I can just email them to you. It's not a big deal at all. And you're welcome so much. I hope you're feeling better, because pneumonia stinks. My son has that. He was in college last week. He was diagnosed with it, and it stinks. It about killed him. Hi, Margie. All right, this is almost done, and there's definitely a little bit of extra liquid that needs to cook off, but I think that even with that extra tomato sauce and liquid, it'll be fine. Yeah, Leslie, it's hard, and then if you have kids too running around, I think it takes forever, and then you have a cough that lingers forever. At least that's how it is here. Everybody gets this cough that just stays around for weeks and weeks, so. No, it'll definitely be around, and then even like the Dropbox will stay there. I'm not moving that at all, and so you can always grab those documents later, and so there's no stress on that. So for the tuna casserole, so I usually use 1.5 cups of my homemade cream of mushroom soup, but I'm going to try it with a can, and I think I might end up needing to add a little bit more, and so I'll do that. I should probably add that in for people that don't want to make the homemade soup. This is one of the staple meals that we have. Somebody had asked before about how that works, and we always have stuff for tuna casserole in the pantry. It's not the healthiest choice because there's just a lot of carbs, and you're using the canned tuna, but it's super easy, and it's definitely a healthier choice than like fast food. And especially when it's cold and miserable out and you're not feeling well, this is just a really easy one to put together. So it's a little hard to tell when the taco meat is done, because it's like the colors of it are so red, and so I can definitely still see some pink in there. But remember, I did 2 pounds of taco meat, so I did much more than the recipe called for. It was actually probably more than 2 pounds because it was a Costco container. And there's actually not a lot of liquid at all left now, so I think this will be fine. Alright, I'm gonna shred this in the KitchenAid because it's super easy. Alright, the taco meat is about done. I'm gonna turn it off. And that's not boiling yet. So I'm just gonna shred the chicken and then I'll dump it back in with the enchilada seasoning and sauce. First, I see if it's done. So, the inside of this is still a little bit pink. And it's probably because I added that extra chicken breast. So I'm going to dump it back in for a few minutes. And I'm going to set the Instant Pot to maybe like a minute. And so by the time it repressurizes and cooks for a minute, it should probably be fine. So I just broke the chicken in half to see, and the very inside of it is not done. So I could have shredded it and then put it back in, but I feel like it wouldn't have shredded nicely with the raw chicken. And so we'll just finish cooking it, and then you really can't overcook chicken in the Instant Pot when you're gonna shred it. And so we'll just do that, and this should take just a second to pressurize because it was just pressurized. Trying to decide which one I want to put the, sorry, that one was hot. Which one I want to put the taco meat in. Oh, the cauliflower, I forgot the cauliflower. So this is a huge bag. I don't know exactly how much is in there. And I'll use it for the it's like over 2 pounds of the taco meat that I did. Hold on, I'll measure it quick. It's about 2 cups of rice cauliflower to probably 2.5 pounds of taco meat. And then, because I let it sit out, it's almost defrosted. And I'm just gonna let it sit and then mix it in. If you have kids or husbands that you're hiding this from, I would just stick something on top of it so that it can kind of melt in, and then all that dark red sauce in the mixture and the tomato sauce that's what's gonna hide the cauliflower meat or the cauliflower rice. And sometimes I'll even put onions in it. I didn't do that today, but that helps too, because then they don't know if it's onions or cauliflower. I'm gonna stick the lid on that and then just kind of let it sit for a minute. Grab out the veggies for the tuna casserole. Oh, and we have mushrooms somewhere. Here they are. I just stick a whole bag in. It says a cup, carrots and zucchini. I'm just using carrots and peas because that's what I had from the grocery store. But we'll put that in after the noodles are all cooked and everything. Keep thinking that I hear that boil, but it's not boiling yet. So, tuna casserole on stove. We have sweet potatoes, oatmeal, hard-boiled eggs, chipotle chicken marinade, and then peanut butter cups. That just came to pressure. And so we'll do all that after this is done. After this is done, I'm going to change the seal for the Instant Pot because we'll be done with the meat. And you guys know that it makes the Instant Pot seal stink, especially like taco meat makes it stink. Enchiladas won't be too bad. Orange chicken won't be too bad. But I feel like it's more meat than chicken, and it's anything that's like really heavily seasoned. So I have extra seals, and I'll just swap it when we're gonna cook the oatmeal and the hard-boiled eggs and the sweet potatoes. Between the extra liquid in here and the cauliflower, it's perfect. It seems to have soaked up the extra liquid. taco meat. I'm gonna open this up again. Burn it a little bit. Alright, so that is a lot of taco meat. And then we have orange chicken and sauce. Let's try this again. So now they're like falling apart, so I think they're perfect. So I just added an extra 2 minutes and I let it come to pressure again and cooked it for 2 minutes. And that was plenty. Shredded chicken going back in. And I'm going to transfer that to a bowl and let it cool so that we can start cooking the other Instant Pot recipes. I don't need this. Oh, no, I will for the oatmeal. Lots of dishes. I think I have all of my dishes out. And you guys don't get to see the little staging area that's like everything outside of the camera is just trashed. So this I'm just going to pour in a bowl and let it sit for a couple minutes. see that. So there's a lot of liquid, and what I'll do is I'll just let it kind of, sorry, I can't see my eyes. I'll just let it soak in as it sits in the fridge or the freezer, and then I'll stuff enchiladas with it. And then I would just use a slotted spoon. So when you're pulling this out so that you don't get the extra liquid, I can't tip it anymore because it'll come out. And the liquid is probably because I put the extra green chilies in, but it's really not a big deal because you can just use a slotted spoon and pull that meat out. So next we're going to do sweet potatoes in the Instant Pot. I scrubbed them earlier, washed them. I didn't slice them at all, but I did poke them with a fork a couple times. And so the recipe, I don't think I actually added this recipe, now that I'm thinking about it. I'll send it, or put it in the document. 1 cup water, 4 sweet potatoes, 10 minutes, and actually it says to manually release. Sorry, I'm like rethinking my game plan here. So I added the sweet potatoes at the last minute, and I think I might do them last because the hard-boiled eggs will cook, and then the oatmeal will cook, and they're both quick release. And then the sweet potatoes you need to naturally. So I'll probably stick them in at the very end, and then they can just cook and then release and make sure that they're done. Sweet potatoes are they're easy to freeze. They're really nice to have on hand for like baked potatoes, or you can like put sugar on them, or cinnamon on them, and have them for breakfast. So I feel like they're a little bit more work. Thank you. A little bit more work to do for meal prep than like say brown rice. But I feel like they're so much more versatile than brown rice, and they're healthier. So I do it. I am ideal. So let's do hard-boiled eggs. I'm going to do 12 of them. And then I'm sticking on my silicone liner, or trivet, I guess. And then some of them are going to touch this side of the pot, and I think that's fine. I've never really had issues with that. Sorry, I forgot that I had to strain the noodles for the tuna casserole. Okay, I need 1.5 cups of water. And then we'll stick them in for 5 minutes, and then we'll let them naturally release for 5 minutes. And then we'll stick them in the ice. think it'll be okay. So we'll dump these. We'll dump the mushrooms. I'm going to turn this back on. So this it just needs time for the mushrooms to cook. It doesn't even really need that much. And I'm actually going to go get one more can of soup and maybe some milk to stick in it. That's warm now. Okay. This is still a little bit thick, so I'm just going to put a little bit of milk in. About that much. Maybe maybe a quarter cup. It wasn't very much. And I keep putting these down. So, and it's not really, not so much thick for eating, but I feel like it's a little thick to cook the fresh mushrooms. And so I'm going to go grab salt and pepper, and then I think I might just add a little bit more milk. Stovetop is so much different than the Instant Pot, and I think I cook so much more with the Instant Pot now. And so, you know, that has plenty of water when you go to cook something with it, whereas the stove doesn't. And when you are counting on it to cook a vegetable, it's tough. So I might even add some more milk, just because it soaks it right up. So there's no milk on the bottom. There's like nothing for it to cook in. So I'm going to close in my tabs. Orange chicken's done. Enchiladas done. So we have the marinade. We'll do that next. And I can hear these boiling now. just gonna keep this out now and see how it does. Okay, that's better. So I probably added a cup of milk to that. So I don't know if it was the brand of noodles that I used or because I put more veggies in, but it needed more milk than usual. So, and then we're waiting for our eggs. I'm gonna check my battery again. Come super close. Hold on, I'm gonna go grab my charger. These are all the things that you don't think about when you have when you don't normally go live for 3 hours. All right. Sorry. I think we're good now. All right. So the mushrooms in here aren't totally done yet, but I feel like it's not a big deal because you're going to be reheating it, whether it's in the microwave or on the stovetop. At some point you're going to be reheating it and cooking it more. And so I'd rather err on the side of not all the way cooked mushrooms than overcooked mushrooms. So I'm going to turn that off and let that cool for a minute before we stick it. And then we can start doing our peppers, the chipotle chicken, the marinade. So we'll do that. Let me just wipe this quick.
That doesn't come all the way off.
Okay, good.
All right. So, like I said, I prefer to cook dinner at night. And so, just being able to have all this stuff together and marinated is super helpful. And then what I'll do is I'm going to stick frozen chicken in the bag with it, and I'm going to stick it back in the freezer so that, like, say on Wednesday night, I'm going to get home and pull it out, put it in the sink, and let it thaw, and then I'm going to grill it. They'll probably be leftovers, so I'll probably make them use that for salads the next day or whatever. So it's a copycat recipe for chipotle chicken, and we've made a couple changes to it. You can do it in the blender or in the food processor. I'm going to stick it in the food processor. And that's mainly for the food processor is mainly for the onion and that chipotle pepper sauce. If you like it so it's spicy, period. If you like it super spicy, you can keep, I said to pull out the chipotle peppers, but I would leave one in there. It just depends on how spicy you like it. And you could also, if you find that you don't pull out the peppers and it's too spicy, you could just cut it in half and add in some chicken broth or a little bit of olive oil, and you can marinate it then. So I would just taste it before you stick it in your Ziploc bags, if that's what you're doing with this. So I pre-measured the black pepper, cumin, oregano. I could not find any fresh oregano at the store, so I just used, instead of 2 tablespoons of fresh oregano, I used 1 tablespoon of dried, and then 6 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons salt, and then the red onion, 1/4 cup olive oil, and then the chicken breasts. So these were totally new to me until I moved to Arizona. So it's chipotle chicken in adobo sauce, and it looks, chipotle peppers. It looks nasty, and it doesn't really smell good. But it's amazing when you put it in. But it's super thick and chunky. So it has, I think it has onions in it, chipotle peppers, onions, vinegar, tomato paste, salt, dried peppers. So some of them, when you get them without onion, is super, like it's very liquidy. The onion kind of soaks up all the liquid. And so because this one has onion, I'm actually gonna dump it into a bowl first so that I can easily pick out the peppers. And it seems like such a waste because you buy this can and then you end up not using all of it. You know, you buy it for the peppers and then you toss the peppers. But it's really the sauce that's in there. Hold on a second, I'll show you. They're, I don't even know what else you would make. This is the only thing I've ever used these things for. But they look pretty nasty. But you just have to, we discard the peppers and then sometimes you skim out seeds. Sometimes you can keep the peppers in there and just take the seeds out. So I'm just gonna pull out a couple peppers and I'm gonna leave some in there because we like ours pretty spicy. And then I just try to get all the sauce that I can off of the peppers. So anything that I can get to stay in. And it's gonna seem like it's not a lot, but it is. It's gonna be spicy and it's gonna have a lot of taste. And then sometimes they even, like the chipotle peppers themselves, have a lot of like tomato paste in them. And so you can like pull it out. And so like I made this pretty, I don't know, flat. And pulled out all of the insides. And then if one of them starts to fall apart, you can just keep it in there. But just remember, the goal is to get everything out that you can except the peppers, because the peppers might just be too much. And there's not any way to make this not spicy. That chipotle peppers, that's the spice. Like that's the whole seasoning, and that's what they use. So there's no way to make this less spicy, except if you were to pull out every single one of the peppers. And if you did that, I'd recommend getting the one without the onions because there's more sauce in it. So I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm just using 2 spoons to kind of separate them and squeeze out all of the sauce and the peppers. And then I'm just keeping a couple peppers in there. Maybe 4. Alright, so I'm going to start chopping the onion first. And then I'll slowly add the chipotle peppers in there. And then at the very end, I'll put the seasonings in. stuck to the side. I'm just gonna mix it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna blend it a little bit more, and then we should be good to marinate it. And I'll show you what it looks like. I know it's kind of hard to see. All right, so this is the marinade. So it's thick. It's not like a nice thin marinade. It's super thick, and you just kind of have to, I just stick it in there and I move it around, like mush it around, and then as the chicken thaws, it's so nice. Like it actually coats it really nice and evenly, and then you don't have a bunch of stuff on the rest on your chicken when you pull it out. It almost adds to the liquid. Be careful with that because it's there's go grab the chicken, and I'll probably stick maybe 3 pieces in each bag. I think I'm going to do 2 in each bag. So we are closing it on 3 hours. No, I'm sorry, 2 hours. 2 hours. So I feel like this might even take us a little bit less time than we had thought. But we'll see, because we still have a couple of recipes to go through. So that's how much I put in each bag. It doesn't need a lot. Because when it melts, when it thaws, it's going to spread around a lot more. I think the peppers are making me cough. And I actually might even put a little bit more in. Usually I get 2 bags of marinade out of this recipe. And I'll put 2 or 3 chicken breasts in there depending on what size they are. So I just try to flatten out the chicken, because if you have them stacked and frozen, they never thaw nicely and they're all stuck in the middle and it takes longer. And then I just try to coat each one, because the more you can coat it, the longer it's going to be marinating as it's thawing. And you could totally stretch and get 3 pieces of chicken in here, 4 pieces of chicken. It totally depends on how much you want to stick in there. All right. These are going to go in the freezer until I need them.
apple with that total peppers on. And I do not even remember what I used that for.
All right. So we have 2 more minutes to wait for the hard-boiled eggs in the Instant Pot. And maybe I will just portion out the tuna casserole. All right. Oh, thank you. I'll take it. All right, so tuna casserole. We're gonna get 2 big containers out of that. That's perfect. And again, if you have smaller ones and you want to freeze them in like portion-sized containers, you can totally do that. You can do it in freezer bags too, like Ziploc has small freezer bags. I might actually have to stick more in the other one. We tend to, we'll eat something for dinner and then have those leftovers for lunch the next day. And so it works well for us to portion it in big containers. And then I just thaw it all at night. And then we eat it that night the next day. Tuna casserole's done. Like I said, I added extra veggies, extra mushrooms, extra peas and carrots, and you could add whatever. You could add broccoli to this. You could add whatever your kids like and whatever you like. I would just stuff it with veggies. I tried to do cauliflower rice once. It didn't work very well. They totally knew it and they were not happy about it, and so they couldn't taste it. They could just see it. So cauliflower rice is not good for everything. All right, so I think that's all of our lunches and dinners for the week. This is done. So I grabbed some ice to stick in with the eggs, and we're just going to give them an ice bath for a couple minutes. All right. It looks like we had a couple broken ones. But they're all over. It's not like they're just out by down by the heating element or out on the sides or whatever. So I think it's anything that I did. So we'll just let these soak in water and ice for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to stick them back in a container, which I'm going to label very clearly because my youngest son too many times, too often, will not look, and he uses them for eggs in the morning. And so then, you know, of course, if he tries to crack it and it doesn't crack, it's a hard-boiled egg, he throws it away instead of waiting to see, like, oh, can I put it in a Ziploc bag and save it? So I'm just gonna let this sit for a couple minutes so that they cool and stop cooking. I think it doesn't matter that they're cooled and when they go in your fridge. I think it just matters that they need to stop cooking. All right, I'm gonna give them a couple minutes. And then we are going to do our oatmeal. So like I mentioned in the email that I sent, if you do not like oatmeal, that is not an issue. That is not like, this is not regular oatmeal. This is baked oatmeal, and it's amazing. And it almost tastes like a muffin, but thicker, like a muffin that you would make with oatmeal. And it totally changed my views on oatmeal, because I could not stomach it. I couldn't stomach like how it's soft and a little bit slimy, and I don't love milk, so like there was that texture, there was that in there. And so it was so nice to find these recipes and to start playing with them. Years ago, probably 10 years ago, I had a girlfriend that I went over for breakfast one morning and coffee, and she made this huge baked oatmeal like casserole, and it was so good. And so then I just started messing with the recipes. Huh? I think I just need this big. They just need to sit. Be covered. So these are going to sit for a little while. Hard-boiled eggs, I'm going to move them over. And I did not change my ring before I put the hard-boiled eggs in. I am going to change it. I am going to change it though, because it smells like taco meat, I think. So I just have to wait for it to cool down enough to be able to do that. This isn't really dirty, it's just egg. Okay. Just need to put it on. Next recipe. Yes. All right. So the very first thing that I cooked in the Instant Pot was meat. So the clear seal that came with the Instant Pot is what it smells. And it totally gets better. If you like sit it out in the sun for a couple days, it totally gets better. But then I feel like it slowly comes back. And so it's just so much easier to have I remember that we used one of them for meat, but I couldn't remember. And so it was the red one, which makes sense, right? Blue is for breakfast stuff, is how I remember it. Blue is for breakfast stuff, not meat. And then red and clear is for meat. And I want to say it was like $10 or $15 for 2 extras. And I use them all the time. I switch it out all the time. You just have to make sure that it looks the same all the way around, because otherwise you try to put something else in it and it doesn't seal, and then it's a hot mess. So what I did for this recipe was, I have adjustable serving sizes, and so I was able to, I moved it up to 5 because I knew that I wanted to use my egg bite molds. It's not moving for me now. There it is. It's not the best thing to use on the iPad, but it works. Thank you. Thank you. So I pre-measured some of it, and then I have some of it that I need to still. But I did 5. My thought was that for the recipe by itself makes 1 mug full. And so I thought, well, if I have extra in the egg bite molds, then that's fine. And I can just cook them after, then I would just, 5 is good. Alright, so oatmeal, I went and wrote down everything that I needed to get from the fridge. So when I was trying to just plan and figure that out, I don't know if that would be helpful if you're doing it kind of on the fly and not in a video. But I just made sticky notes for everything, what I still needed to add to the recipe. Because some of the spices were pre-measured. So I've like built a little fortress, I'm sorry, because you can't really see. I'll try to hold everything up before I do it. So 2.5 cups of oatmeal. I'm actually going to stick this in my mixer. And then I'll use my stand mixer to mix it up. So I measured the 2.5 cups of oatmeal before. Baking powder, cinnamon. That's it. Baking powder and cinnamon is in here. I need 5 eggs. And it's super, so I'm doing the apple cinnamon one. It is so easy to swap out ingredients. So the cinnamon I might still keep, but you can switch out the apple with banana or blueberry, strawberry. It's super easy to swap those out. I might, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might reduce the milk a little bit if you were to do something that would be a little juicier like blueberries, because then it could be too liquidy, because I feel like the apples don't really, they don't add anything to it and they don't really absorb a lot. So I might reduce the milk a little bit, but other than that, I feel like you wouldn't have to really do anything to the recipe. 1 3/4 cup milk. So this, I wanted to do this slowly so that it's not super liquidy. Just because they're going into the tiny egg bite molds and there's not, usually if I was doing like a big casserole or even a mug, there would be enough space in there and ingredients in there that extra could be soaked up by the oatmeal. But when you're doing something as small as in the egg bite molds, I feel like that's not easy to do. So I'm just going to add the milk super slow. Thank you. So 5 teaspoons of vanilla. No, 2.5 teaspoons vanilla. I'm glad that I checked that twice. And then 5 teaspoons maple syrup is what we need. And that's your sweetener, so you don't need to add sugar or anything to it or on top of it. You could do honey if you wanted to. I just find that maple syrup is easy to add to breakfast foods and it doesn't really mess with the taste very much. And then powder, cinnamon, vanilla, maple syrup, apples. So it says 1 1/4 cup of apples. I keep the skins on, but you could easily take them off. I really don't think that you can taste it after you bake it. I don't think you can taste the skins. But I also don't have an aversion to it, so if you have somebody in your family that does not like it, or if you do not like apple skin, then I would take them off. And then I think it doesn't really matter which kind of apple you use. We tend to get Honeycrisp or Pink Lady if we can. So those ones are extra sweet, I think. We like it. I like that they're firm. I don't like that they're huge when they come. Every once in a while we can find small ones, but it's not often. Even the organic ones are huge. And it's not a big deal if you don't get these pieces real super small. I feel like, well, for egg bite molds you want them to be small, but they're not teeny tiny. And then these I don't think are, if you were gonna do a cup of them, like a mug, I think they'd definitely be enough to eat for breakfast. And the egg bite molds, you'd have to have several of them, and I'm not good with that, because if I start my day off with carbs like that, that's all I'll eat all day. So I figured I'll probably just have like 2 of them with a banana, or 2 of them with maybe a scrambled egg. And so I multiplied the recipe by 5, and I am using 1 whole, maybe just a little bit less than that, 1 whole huge Honeycrisp apple. To mix it with the mixer. Hi. You're on camera. You can say hello to everybody.
Awesome.
It's going awesome.
Thanks.
I warned him. All right, so it does look a little bit eggy, but it's like it won't taste that way because it's baked, and it's gonna look a little bit wet, but it's not going to be after it's cooked. So that's why I was a little nervous about doing them in egg bite molds. But when you're gonna tweak a recipe, you should definitely do it live in front of 200 people to see if it works, rather than testing it out while you're by yourself. So we're just gonna see how it works, and we're gonna wing it. So super liquidy. You can see how big the apples are. They're not huge, but they're not super small. So we'll see how they do in the egg bite molds. I'm gonna spray them and then put them in. So this says 10 minutes, which I feel like might be a lot for the egg bite molds. I think I might do it though. I think I might do the 10 minutes. So I actually ended up not using a whole lot of that milk. I think I might want to try to do a little bit more, even if it means that it's going to be more liquidy. We'll see. This could totally fail. This could be not enough space for these to cook, but we're going to try it. I do know that it works in the mugs. I do know that it works in the casserole dish, both of them evenly. So if this doesn't work, you can cook it either other way. So I'm trying to not leave out all the liquid, though it kills me a little bit to stick it in there because I'm used to straining stuff like that. But it'll totally help them cook better. And it's definitely not as nice and clean as it was when we made the meatballs. That was very easy to clean up after, and like the top of my egg bite molds are already a mess. So I'm going to cover these in foil. I actually want to stick, I want to put the water in here before I forget. And then I'm just going to cook them on top of the same trivet that I cooked the eggs on. And this looks like it won't be a ton of extra. So multiplying that recipe by 5, it's close. Maybe 4 would have been perfect. We'll see, I'll tell you in a second. There's like enough for one more. Like, it's almost perfect. This one is dripping, so I'll wipe it off and then I'll come show you what it looks like before I put it in. Which again, could be a moot point because this could not work at all, but we'll see. So I'm like, how close can I get without it spilling all over? So they're pretty liquidy, and you want to make sure that there's liquid in there because that's what's going to soak up and make sure it's not dry. I made this as a casserole before though, and if it does get dry, it is so easy to like, I would stick these in a bowl, pour a little bit of milk on them, and then heat them up, and that would be perfect. So same thing with like the casserole. When you make the casserole, if you feel like it's dry at all, you just take out a bowl of it and then pour a little bit of milk on it and then heat it up, and it's perfect. And then I'm going to try to not stack these directly on top of one another. I'm going to try to stagger them a little bit. And then we'll try it for 10 minutes. Alright, so oatmeal's in there. And then I am going to, so normally you let this naturally release. I think I might still do that for a couple minutes. And then we're going to put the sweet potatoes in when these are done. That's the last thing. We are going to do the peanut butter cups. I just spilled a little bit of apple. And I ended up using all but like 1/3 of a cup of that milk. So, peanut butter cups. Trying to clear off some space. Alright, so I've actually never made this recipe this way before. I'm going to make like peanut butter cups out of it. Usually you mix the peanut butter and the chocolate together to make fudge. But I figured I would do like a layer of chocolate and then a layer of peanut butter and then a layer of chocolate. So we'll see. It's just, it's very similar to the one that we did last week for the coconut cookies. It's from the same site. It's really good. We just finished that, the coconut cookies, and I made, I think, a double batch. So my coconut oil is not melted. So I'm gonna melt it quick in the microwave. Oh, and I know that the recipe says to use smooth peanut butter, but I use crunchy peanut butter because I wanted to see how that would be, because you can't go wrong with crunchy peanut butter. All right. I don't think I have little liners, and I wonder if they'll just be okay if I keep them in the fridge. I bet they will be. I thought I had little mini liners for my tin. I do. Okay. All right. So we have to wait for this to cook, melt. Super close. After I poured out everything for the recipe, I thought, oh, I should have doubled that. Alright, so I'm just going to whisk it for a second. I have the coconut oil, maple syrup, and vanilla in here. And the coconut oil is really close to being melted, but not totally melted. And I don't think with using the coconut oil for the chocolate that you will have to spray the what a cupcake pan, or it just kind of depends on what you want to make it in. I'm not going to spray mine. So I'm going to, so the recipe says to pour in cocoa powder and the peanut butter, but I'm pouring in the cocoa powder and not the peanut butter. So we're actually just making the same chocolate that we made last week to put on top of the cookies. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour them in. I'm going to put the bottom layer in the freezer, give them a few minutes, and then hopefully when I pour in the peanut butter, it will, yeah, it'll be good. And so otherwise if I do the chocolate and then the peanut butter is going to sink right through, which I guess isn't the worst thing, but I figured I would try to just stick it in the freezer. A lot of food. All right, so I'm just gonna pour, take like a tiny scoopful and put it in the bottom of the mini muffin pan, just to kind of line it carefully without making a huge mess. It's already making a mess. And I'm literally, like, as soon as it's lined the bottom, I'm stopping. The dogs are done with sitting outside. They're knocking politely at the door to come in. All right. I do a little bit more. And I bet the smooth peanut butter, like the one from Costco that you can almost pour, would be super easy to just put in here in the middle. But I'm totally doing crunchy because that's just a superior peanut butter. I'm gonna give that just a few minutes. This is not even up to pressure yet. And so, sweet potatoes are the last thing that we have. I'm gonna put the hard-boiled eggs in the fridge after I very clearly label this. So there's no like, I didn't know. Didn't mean to waste your eggs. It's just so much easier than putting them in a bowl, and then like the egg containers seem to fit perfectly in the fridge. And some of them are cracked, which means that I'll eat those ones first because I feel like if they're cracked, then they smell, which is why I don't peel them before I put them in the fridge. So we'll just be sure to eat those ones first.
I think that's fine. That was just a good thing.
All right, so we're gonna wait for that to freeze. We're gonna wait for this to cook. We have veggies in the fridge. I'm pulling it all out so you can see it. Let me go get my nuts. I'm gonna make up some bags of nuts and do the sweet potatoes, and then we'll be done. We're at 2.5 hours, and so remember I did the brown rice first, so I just did basic rice. So if you were to do like minute rice, maybe that wouldn't be an issue. You can just do that for, you know, a couple minutes. That wouldn't add on. But I knew that I was gonna make instant pot rice, and it was gonna take 25 minutes, and so I wanted to do that before I even started the video. So I want to get everything in the fridge because I don't like it sitting here. But I don't want to like give you the beautiful shot of every single thing that we prepped because it is a lot of food. So 2.5 hours plus, let's say, you know, it took 30 minutes, 25 minutes for the brown rice to cook, but it took like a minute to dump it all in the Instant Pot. And so it's going to vary. The time that it takes you to do this is going to vary depending on if you have an Instant Pot. If you have 2 Instant Pots, you would definitely be done in less time. You know, how well you sit down and plan. So today, I planned it all out for you. Cook this, cook this, cook this. We had to edit that a little bit because different things, you know, something took longer than we thought. And but just knowing that like this is an approximate time is helpful, I think, for everybody to see, okay, well, you know, I'll set aside a 4-hour block on Sunday, and that'll be fine for us to meal prep in. I'm adding salted pistachios to the unsalted nuts. Before I fill up the snack bags. So I feel like 4 hours is a very generous time frame. If you were doing everything in the oven or on the stove, maybe you'd be closer to that 4 hours. If you were using 2 Instant Pots instead of 1, you'd probably be closer to the 2-hour mark. And I feel like we're kind of using a mix of both, and so it's 2.5, 3 hours. So, but 2.5, 3 hours to get breakfast for the entire week, lunches, 2 separate lunches for the entire week, and then 3 separate dinners, I think is like solid. And dessert, you're doing dessert too. I feel like it's not a ton of time to spend. All right, so 1/4 cup for our snack bags of nuts. You know what else stops me from doing is picking through the container of nuts to pick out my favorite ones and to not eat my least favorite ones, because I'll totally like skip over them and I'll have an entire container full of walnuts sitting here. And then I usually do one of these for each of us for each day, and then a couple extra, because it's just nice to have a couple extra on hand in case I want to stick one in my car, or if the kids want to take one. So when this is done, I'm going to go grab the chocolate out of the freezer and add the layer of peanut butter, and then just pour a very thin layer of chocolate on top of that. And then I'm going to stick them back in the freezer. They're just going to be stored in the freezer. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do one more, because we still have a couple that I did last week. That one was definitely not a full 1/4 cup. All right, snacks. Let's see. So, veggies, cut veggies, hard-boiled eggs, and nuts for snacks, plus the peanut butter cups if you're going to use them for snacks. Orange chicken and sauce. I have to move my garbage can. Orange chicken and the extra sauce that was in there. Chicken enchiladas, still warm, so I don't feel too good about it sitting on the counter. This is going to be enough for a minimum of 2 dinners. I did not double the recipe, but it just makes so much, and it depends on, like, if you're just using it for salads, I feel like it could go so much further than just a week of lunches. Enchiladas, it'll probably make like a big batch of enchiladas or like 2 small ones. Taco meat, remember I doubled that with cauliflower. Let me show you real quick up close so that you can see and then decide for yourself. So that's the bottom with the liquid in it. That's the top. So you can see it a little bit on the top. You can't see a ton in the bottom. And I feel like when you're adding other stuff to it, I guess it depends on how picky you or your kids are. You can't taste it. You can't taste it at all. And it's so small. So again, like I said, you can do onions with it if you feel like that would help to mask that. But it's so seasoned, and it's seasoned so well that I think it's super easy. Tuna casserole, 2 big containers of tuna casserole. We have oatmeal bites in here. They're almost done. I'll pull them out. And then we have the chocolates. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Am I missing one? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, the chipotle chicken marinade. I forgot about that. I knew we had 7. So again, you can do this. I did 2. You can do 3 pieces of chicken. You could even do 4 pieces of chicken super easily. But there's meal number 7. So 7 meals. There's 5 minutes left on here. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to put these away. And then I'm gonna pull out the chocolates and then put the peanut butter in the middle. We're actually not even we're not using a refrigerator, we're using a huge cooler, and then we have to, I have no clue, try to find room in our spare refrigerator that's actually just a beer fridge. So we're gonna try to find room for that to be able to freeze the rest of it. And so, yeah, I figured, I'm telling them I'm putting them in my fridge, and you can see the fridge, you can see that I'm not putting them in the fridge. So they're going in a cooler. And then I will, as I get ready to pull them out there, I will take a picture of everything that we did, so that you can have that. And I want to see your pictures too. If you guys do that, I want to see pictures of what you've done, because it's just fun and it's super satisfying to be able to take a picture of everything that you prepped that day. So these are perfect. I hope they come out and they don't get stuck in there. So, that seemed like a pretty big bite of peanut butter. You know what would be good in these is like a slice of banana. Not that this isn't going to be good. But so the recipe calls for a half cup, which I think is more than enough to stick in these. We'll see how it lasts, but. I don't know if you can hear that. I can totally hear it. We are smoking a brisket, and I think my husband and son are out there filling up the smoker with more wood pellets. And so I just hear a bunch of like shaking of a bag. It could probably be super annoying to you. Sorry if it is. All right, so I said there was plenty of peanut butter. Maybe there's not. Maybe I was a little heavy-handed with it. So I might end up taking some out of the first couple that were like super full, and then putting them in the end, these last ones. I also ended up, I feel like I made these half the size that they're supposed to be, on the bottom at least, because it says, well, it says it makes 2 to 3 mini ones per serving for 10 servings, and so I have 24 here. So I'm gonna divide up the peanut butter a little bit more. All right, so that's done. It's said to let that naturally release. And so I'm just gonna give it a couple minutes to sit while we finish these. had these yet, and I'm gonna tell you that I feel like you should really make them, because I might just have them for dinner. And I think that even having like a super light layer of peanut butter is like, it's plenty, especially with thick. I think thin would have gone, or like smooth peanut butter would have gone so much further. I think it didn't go as far because it was thick, but I think it's still more than enough. And then I'm just gonna cover it a tiny bit. And they're not gonna be beautiful, perfect peanut butter cups, and I am okay with that. Because I don't wanna fill it and make it level. I feel like that would be too much chocolate on them. See if I can get over there and be able to hold them sideways so that you guys can see them before I put them in. Because I know that if it was flat, like if I mixed them all together, like it said in the recipe, they would be like flat and beautiful and they would look like peanut butter cups, but I am not a huge fan of chocolate, and so I don't want to overdo it on top. Yeah, these look really good. They smell good. I guess it probably depends if you like coconut oil or not. I love coconut and coconut oil. So they're not like perfect and beautiful, but if I wanted to add more chocolate and maybe make like half of that batch, then I definitely could have. But I wanted to see if I could spread it out to all 24. So I'm gonna stick these back in the freezer. And then we're gonna pull these out and see how they look. All right, I'm gonna try them. We'll see. A little bit big for this, but I am running very low on meal prep containers, so it's going in the big one. So I still have some brown rice left from when I made it earlier and added some, so I'm just going to stick that in a Ziploc bag. It's really easy to keep from frozen. And I know that I added that recipe last week or the week before, but I'll add it again. There's not a ton left, but enough, I mean, for sure, for a couple of meals. They don't need to be done because now I'm done. I can do them later. What? I can do them later. All right, so I did 3 cups of dry rice, which probably is what, 6 cups? And so I have about maybe 1.5 left. You know what I didn't do? I did not make a sling to pull these out. So let's see what we can do with oven mitts. So it looks like they spilt over just a little bit. You can see it on the bottom rack. So I filled them quite a bit and they stuck to the top a little bit. Gosh, they feel done though. They feel, yeah, so I'm gonna actually, hold on. All right, so they definitely spilled over a little bit, which is fine. I just cut this one in half and it's done. And you can see that that's not like mushy oatmeal. That's like, especially when it cools a little bit, it's like, I don't know, nice and thick and super hearty. This is probably a little bit of the egg and milk mixture. But I don't know, the 10 minutes, I feel like 10 minutes was pretty perfect for that. So let me pull out this other one. Yeah, the sling is definitely the way to go because it's much easier and then you don't get your oven mitts all nasty. So sometimes the bottom mold is not as cooked as the top mold, which stinks, but actually it looks like, yeah, this one's fine. All right, so 14 egg bite molds. So that's gonna be probably 2 every morning for almost the 3 of us, almost. Maybe one of them will be free one day or whatever and not the next. And then we'll do eggs and bananas. So, holy crap, that was a lot. And it was just about 3 hours. So like I said before, if you have 2 Instant Pots, it's gonna take less time. If you're doing it on the stove top, it might take more. We did half and half, and it was 3 full hours. But holy crap, we have a ton of meals that are ready for the week, and now you're done. Veggies are cut, nuts are poured, dessert is ready, and breakfast, 2 different lunches, 3 different dinners, so taking into account that you're gonna use leftovers, and possibly needing a pizza night on Friday night, but you shouldn't. Oh, and then tons of the frozen vegetables that you use. So that's gonna supplement all the meals are the frozen vegetables that I put on the food list so that you can just add them to your lunches and dinners and get some veggies in. So there's no questions that I can see. If you guys have questions while you do this, I will be around. And let me know, 1, if you did it all, 2, if you still prep with us today but didn't do it all, you just did a little bit, or if you just tuned in to laugh at us today because we spent 3 hours meal prepping. But it's for the week, so I feel like you can laugh if you want to. All right, thank you. I will talk to you guys in the group, and these videos will be kept in here for quite a while. I'm not gonna close the group for a while. I was originally going to start doing this like every week and having different different groups do it, but I feel like this is so much more than I had anticipated, and so I'm gonna leave this for now, and if down the road I have a lot of people ask for it, then I might reopen it and do it again. But for now, these videos will be in here. So I will talk to you guys later. I hope you're having a good Saturday.